Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a little shorter than Brian, so I'm going to adjust the microphone. And I will tell you that the words that Brian shared about my relationship with Mrs. Perea, I will say ditto, Brian, ditto. She was incredibly proud of our Brian Colon, a attorney-in-law, a husband, a father, state party chairman of the Democratic Party, and guess what, my friends, our next mayor of Albuquerque. And we're going to be very proud to watch him being sworn in very, very quickly here. He and I became friends instantly when we met each other, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't recall because, you know, I'm 44 now and I've got a lot going on, as many of us do, but I'm pretty sure it was because of Flora Padilla that we met each other. And I will tell you, as a politician, you're called upon, and I'm called upon often to speak at services like this, at graduations, at various, you know, important events in our lives. And I'll prepare comments, I will prepare words, I will do a lot of research and things of that nature, but when it comes to someone like Mrs. Perea, I really want to speak to you today simply from my heart. I couldn't sleep last night, Mr. Perea. I couldn't sleep at all. I tossed and turned until about 2 in the morning. And I thought of you really the whole time. And those of you that are here today, if you are a direct descendant or a family member of Flora, can you please raise your hand? Thank you. And I'm going to leave my hand up for a little bit too and tell you that I don't know if you know this or not, but I have an incredibly special connection to your family. And it's something I don't often talk about in public, but I knew Mr. Perea since I was 2 years old. I knew Mr. Perea before I met Mrs. Perea. My sisters and I don't know if you are aware of this, but we weren't raised by our parents. They couldn't raise us. And some very special people throughout my life have come into my life. Many of my teachers and folks that were very special to me along the way are here today, but we grew up in the foster care system, my sisters and I, and the All Faiths Home for Homeless Children, and with various family members. And what you may not know as the family is that Mr. Perea, in all of the work that he did all of those years, was our social worker, and he took care of us all throughout those years. And I'm the youngest in my family, and he was just this giant, towering figure. And I remember your green truck. I think it was an international truck. You guys remember this truck?
He still has it.
He would take me to get ice cream. And I'll tell you what, he would load us all in the truck, and he didn't have to do that. He took that time because he knew we didn't have anything, but we had him. And when I got to high school, and I went into my class, the very first class called Business Law. Brian, I'm sure you remember business law. Thoughtful and caring woman this person is, and why she had, you know, this wonderful, powerful relationship with Mr. Perea. I think she knew for about half of that first school year who I was. I didn't know who she was and how I was connected to her. I honestly didn't know that she and Mr. Padilla were married and that they had this beautiful family. And I can remember, you know, just before Christmas, I didn't have anything. We didn't have anything, my friends. And she knew I was having a really hard time. And she looked at me and she told a story that day. She knew who I was and how I was related and connected to her. And she told a story about that she'd heard of this, you know, individual in Tennessee, somewhere in the Smoky Mountains, named Ben Hooper, who grew up very similar to the way that I grew up, with absolutely nothing, and talked about the trials and the struggles and the tribulations that this individual had come through. And I thought, this is quite the departure from business law. Why is she telling this story, and I'm listening and I'm paying attention, and I'm just, you know, mesmerized by the story, and you know, this young man had nothing. He was embarrassed to where he'd come from. He walked around with so much shame. And Mrs. Perea knew that I walked around with a lot of shame because I didn't have a father. I didn't have a mother. Ben Hooper didn't have a father. Was in his church like we are today one day. And basically the story goes that was a day where Ben realized that if he paid attention to all of the wonderful things that were going on in his life, that was the day that little Ben Hooper became big Ben Hooper. And she went on and on about this story, and she was really looking at me the whole time. And then she took me aside after, and she didn't ever want me to feel less than any of the other students in the class or in the school. And she made me feel, as Brian said, so incredibly special. Like I had worth, and I was valuable, and I could do whatever I wanted to in this life. And my friends, and Flora's family, I'm looking at you right now and telling you, this was an incredible human being. Because of those incidents, she didn't want me to feel like I was anything less than the best. And I wanted to share that story with you. I thought, gosh, how can you encapsulate all of this, this wonderful life that Flora had? And I just wanted you to know just how special she made me feel and how she really turned my life around then. I think of, Barbara Padilla, who's here today, Gail Ranshaw, Mary Sanchez, and all of my other teachers that are here today, Mr. Luna, and the rest of the folks that are here, and just what wonderful people all of you are. And you take on such huge responsibility by looking after someone like me. And so personally, I want to stand here today and look at Flora's family and say thank you. Thank you for giving her to us that way for all of those years. Now, she was our friend, she was our teacher, our mom, our grandma, our great-grandma, our niece, our aunt, our cousin. She was just an incredibly special person. But for some reason, I feel like right now, already she's up in heaven organizing something. She's already taking charge of something that's going on up there. And what a beautiful thing that is. Aside from caring for me just as a human being, based on what I just told you about, and it's not a story that I tell very often, she taught me 3 specific things that I always talk about whenever I talk to young people now. And this is the knowledge and stuff that I will tell you that I pass on as a result of my relationship with Mrs. Perea. She stood before our class regularly and talked about things like the world of work. I wondered, what is the world of work? That's just such a foreign term to me. Like, what does that mean exactly? I was already working, but I didn't know really what she meant. And she didn't say, well, you've got to, add the 2 plus the 2, and that's 4, and you've got to file the TPS reports and the whatever. That's not what she talked about. She talked about much more meaningful things. And I live by them. I have 21-year-old twins, my sons. I love them like air. They're giants to me. And I always talk to them about this, and this is lessons that I learned from Mrs. Perea. One is show up. She taught us to show up. If you don't show up, you get absolutely nothing. If you're going to show up, be on time. To be a leader, you should be there first, and you should leave last. It's another valuable lesson that she taught me. If you're going to show up, and you're going to show up on time, be the hardest working person in the room always. And you can never go wrong. I'm also a business owner. In my career, I've probably employed a little over 50,000 people. And when times get tough in my business or with what I'm doing, and Mrs. Perea would tell us, when they're, in the back room there in the conference room determining what they're going to do with this company, do you think they're going to lay off the employee that shows up on time and works the hardest? What a simple set of lessons. So very simple, but hugely important to all of us. So yes, I wanted to share that with you because when I thought back about, Mrs. Perea, when I went to see her when Brian and I went to see her a couple of weeks ago, I thought we had so much more time with her. And we don't. But we do have all of those lessons that she taught us. And we can continue sharing those with the people that are the most important to us. Thank you for letting me go on. I didn't really have prepared remarks because I just wanted to speak from my heart to you and let you know how much she meant to me as a human being. I did have, Mr. Perea, a long certificate produced from the New Mexico legislature, and with your permission, I'm going to read this now. The legislature of the state of New Mexico, 52nd Legislature, 2016, the New Mexico State Senate, having learned of the death of Flora Stella Perea, does hereby extend its sincere, heartfelt condolence and sympathy to the bereaved family and friends of the deceased. And whereas Flora Stella Padilla, a resident of Belen, New Mexico, passed away on Saturday, July 2nd, 2016, at the age of 81. And whereas Flora was born on September 21st, 1934 in Española, New Mexico, to Tomás Maestas and Teresita Pacheco Maestas. And whereas Flora graduated as valedictorian with the class of 1952 from Española High School, and was the recipient of a 4-year scholarship through the Ford Foundation to attend the University of New Mexico. And whereas Flora was active at UNM with Frateres, a philanthropic social organization for female college students, SPARS, the Newman Club, Pi Lambda Theta, and had the honor of being selected to become a member of the Mortar Board, an active honor society of college seniors that recognize in its membership the qualities of superior scholastic ability, leadership, and service to the university. And whereas Flora worked at Sandia National Laboratories and Los Alamos National Laboratory prior to beginning her teaching career. And whereas Flora retired as a business teacher in 1992 from Los Lunas High School after many years of dedicated and outstanding service, where she sponsored OEA, NEA, and safety awareness. And whereas Flora was preceded in death by her parents, her sisters, Rosana Sandoval and Ernestine Martinez, her brother, Eugenio Harpy Martinez, and other relatives. And whereas Flora is survived by her loving and devoted husband of 60 years, Manuel V. Perea of the family home, and her children, Arlene Garcia and husband Danny, Tammy Marie Martinez and husband Joseph, and Manuel Tomas Perea. And whereas Flora is further survived by her grandchildren, Camille, Marisa, Marcos, Patrice, Isaac, Jacob, U.S. Air Force Senior Airman Ramon Perea, Angela, and Tomas. Her great-grandchildren, Aaron, Annalise, and Angelo, and many other relatives and friends. And whereas a celebration of Flora's life was held on Thursday, July 7, 2016, at Our Lady of Belen Catholic Church, and she was laid to rest at Our Lady of Belen Memorial Gardens. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the State of New Mexico that heartfelt condolences be extended to the family and friends of Flora Stella Perea, a kind and loving New Mexican, signed and sealed at the Capitol in the city of Santa Fe. Mary Kay Papin, President Pro Tem, New Mexico Senate, Senator Michael Padilla, Majority Whip, New Mexico State Senate, Lenore M. Naranjo, Chief Clerk, New Mexico State Senate. I know that only scratches the surface of who Mrs. Perea was, but I wanted to memorialize her this way, in a way that I could. And in January, in the upcoming legislative session, I'm unopposed this year, so I will be going back next year. I will have this information read into the official record of the state of New Mexico, and I want you all to know that I'm asking that this be committed to the official history book of the state of New Mexico as well. She was truly, and it's one of my favorite lines in this certificate. I don't really know how else to say it, guys. She was a kind and loving New Mexican, and she was proud of being a New Mexican. God bless you, and thank you for allowing me to join you today.